My wife caught an STD and ended up hospitalized after her affair with her boss came to light. It wasn't even 8:45 in the morning yet, but that Monday was already shaping up to be the absolute worst day I'd ever faced. Earlier that morning, I had kissed my wife Nicole goodbye. We'd been together for 15 years, and she'd built an impressive career as a top real estate agent. You could tell from the hefty pile of commission checks and bonuses she'd stacked up on her desk. "Have a good day," she said in that slick, rehearsed realtor voice she knew always annoyed me. The smirk she wore made it clear she was hiding something, which only made me more irritated. On my way to work, my mind kept drifting to the mountain of reports I had to finish before the month ended. I arrived at the office at my usual time, 7:45, set my briefcase down, and went straight to the men's room to grab a quick cup of coffee. That's when everything took a turn for the worse. Suddenly, out of nowhere, I was hit with a sharp, stabbing pain down below that made me let out a loud scream. My boss, Alan Randall, rushed over immediately. Looking genuinely worried, I told him about the burning feeling, and we both noticed a disturbing greenish discharge. Alan wasted no time telling me to get to a doctor right away. He told me not to stress about the reports. He'd take care of them, and insisted I take whatever time off I needed. I was grateful for his support and kindness when everything felt so overwhelming. I splashed water on my face, grabbed my briefcase, and left the office. At the reception desk, I let them know I wouldn't be back for at least a day, maybe longer. Usually I'd go to my regular doctor, but his office was across town, and I doubted I'd get an appointment on such short notice. So instead, I chose the urgent care clinic just a few blocks away. They quickly took some samples and sent me to the waiting room, which felt like hours, though it was only about 30 minutes before a nurse called my name sharply. Adam Watson. Her cold look made me feel like I was some sort of specimen rather than a patient. Curious about her attitude, I followed her into the observation room. "Take a seat, Mr. Watson," she ordered without warmth. I sat down quietly while she took my vitals, blood pressure, temperature, all the usual checks, without saying much. After writing everything down, she said, "The doctor will see you soon," then left. A little while later, there was a knock, and an older man in a white coat came in carrying a folder. "Mr. Watson, I'm Dar Smith," he introduced himself. He sat down, opened the folder, and got straight to the point. "Your test came back positive for gonorrhea." I blinked, stunned. "Gonorrhea?" I echoed. "Yes, it's a sexually transmitted infection," Dr. Smith explained, giving me a look like I should have been more careful. He told me he'd prescribe antibiotics and warned me to avoid any sexual contact for at least a week. If symptoms persisted after treatment, he advised following up with my primary doctor. The news hit me hard, but his blunt approach helped me cut through the initial shock. I nodded slowly, trying to absorb the next steps. Dr. Smith added that other test results were still pending and might take a couple of weeks or more to come back. Then he asked for a list of people I'd been intimate with recently. I told him I'd only ever been with one person, my wife. He glanced at my chart, looking a little sad. "If I caught it from her, wouldn't she have symptoms?" I asked. "Not always," he said. "She could mistake them for a bladder or vaginal infection. It's really important she gets checked soon. Delaying treatment could cause serious problems." He handed me some medication and had me sign a few forms. "Take care of yourself, Mr. Watson, and make sure you follow up with your doctor," he said as he left the room. Feeling a whirlwind of emotions, I finished up and headed to my car. I called Alan to update him. "I'm really sorry to hear that, Adam," he said. "Your privacy is my priority. Take as much time as you need off. I've handled your reports, so just focus on getting well." "Thanks," I said, hanging up. Next, I had to tell my parents, since I never kept secret from them. I hit their speed dial, and my dad answered. "Hey, son, are you at work?" he asked. "No, Dad. I'm dealing with a health issue and need to talk with you and Mom," I said. "Of course," he replied. "Are the kids okay?" "They're fine," I assured him, "but I'd rather talk in person." "Come over then. We'll have coffee and talk," he suggested. I put away my phone, bracing myself for what was next. A little about my background. My sister Denise and I grew up in a deeply religious, loving household. Our childhood was filled with joy and affection, but our parents were strict. One rule was no sex before marriage. That's why I waited until I married Nicole. When we dated, I told her I wanted to wait. She smiled big and kissed me deeply, saying, "That's so sweet. I promise I'll blow your mind on our wedding night." And she did. It was unforgettable. She was patient and loving, teaching me how to make love in a way that pleased her. Eventually, I began to truly enjoy our intimacy, and it seemed she did too. Nicole had been with other people before me, But it didn't bother me as long as she was committed to us. Shortly after we married, she got a job at a busy real estate office while working toward her license. Our first daughter, Karen, was born about a year later, followed by Heather a year after that. After Heather's birth, Nicole chose to have her tubes tied. It was a tough delivery, and we felt 2 kids were enough, though I hoped for a son. I couldn't have been happier with our daughters. They quickly became the center of my world, turning me into a devoted dad. When Nicole returned to work after maternity leave, I often found myself playing Mr. Mom, especially when she worked late or had piles of paperwork to catch up on. As the girls grew, I took them to their activities, Karen's music lessons and Heather's sports, especially when Nicole's job kept her out in the evenings. Over time, Nicole started spending even more time away from home. She was constantly attending seminars and company retreats, sometimes stretching over entire weekends or even full weeks. Every night she made sure to call, but the growing distance between us was hard to ignore. On top of that, she had developed this annoying, fake persona that really rubbed me the wrong way. I brought it up several times, but she seemed determined to keep it up. Her attitude about work had changed too, making me wonder if she was pouring way too much of herself into her job. Even our daughters began to sense that their mom wasn't quite the same anymore. Still, the idea that she might be cheating never crossed my mind. She was well aware of how seriously I took infidelity. One day, I pulled into my parents' driveway and was greeted by my dad, who gave me a warm hug and patted me on the shoulder. He told me they had just finished their coffee and invited me in to make some more and talk. Inside, I hugged my mom before we all sat down at the dining table. She poured coffee for us, and I added cream and butter pecan syrup to mine. Dad did the same, and we each took a slow sip. Dad suggested we start with a prayer, which was their usual way. Prayer first, then conversation. I agreed. After a few minutes, we moved on to what I had come for. Dad asked what was wrong. I told him I'd just come from urgent care. I have gonorrhea, I said. He responded quietly. With that calm he always had as long as I was honest. After a pause, he asked if I'd been fooling around. No, Dad, never, I said firmly. Nicole's the only woman I've ever been with. He nodded slowly. I believe you, son. I just needed to hear you say it. What are you planning to do? Mom spoke up next. What will you do? I told them I didn't see any other choice but to divorce her. It would be hard on the girls. They were old enough to understand, but I couldn't overlook what had happened. Even if Nicole promised it would never happen again, I knew I couldn't trust her. Dad asked if I had any idea how long this had been going on. I just found out this morning, I said. Adultery is a clear ground for divorce, Dad said as he got up to head to his office. Mom looked heartbroken and told me how sorry she was that this was happening to me. I always thought Nicole was such a wonderful woman. Me too, Mom said quietly. Seems she fooled all of us. Dad came back holding his Rolodex, flipping through it until he found the card he was looking for. There she is, he said. I asked if it was Gina Hawkins, the family law attorney from our church. Yes, that's her, he said. Let me give her a call. It wasn't surprising Dad had her contact. Being a deacon, he always kept important phone numbers handy from the congregation. He dialed and spoke to Gina's secretary before finally reaching her. Gina, hi, it's Dan Watson from church. I'm calling because my son really needs your help soon. He's facing a difficult situation, and I think you can assist. Gina replied she had a canceled appointment that afternoon at 12:30 and could see me then. Dad thanked her and said goodbye, telling me to get ready and bring my financial documents and tax returns from the last 2 years. I realized I needed to get my stuff together and decided I better head inside to pack. Dad agreed it was a good plan. He reminded me I had to talk to Nicole about the STD too. She needed to get tested to avoid spreading it further. Mom suggested the girls stay with them for a while because things might get tense at home. Dad agreed. Have them stay a few days until things settle down. Why don't you bring the girls over after school? We'll take care of them. I will, I said, thankful for their support. We talked a little longer before I stood to leave. Dad hugged me at the door and reassured me it would work out. He warned me not to do anything rash, knowing I might want revenge. He reminded me of Romans 12, verse 19. Vengeance is mine. I will repay, says the Lord. Don't make me bail you out of jail, he joked, telling me to think about the girls. I smiled and promised I got it. I climbed back into my car and headed home. Dad was right. I did want revenge on Nicole and whoever else was involved. After more than 15 years of loving only her, this felt like the deepest betrayal imaginable. When I got home, I started digging through my files to find my old tax returns. I needed Nicole's too, because about 8 years ago she suggested filing taxes separately to save money At the time, it made sense, but looking through her tax forms, I uncovered the real reason behind that idea. Nicole had been earning far more bonuses and commissions than I'd known about. Seeing how much she'd deposited into our joint bank account made me wonder where all the extra cash had gone. My search led me to a folder with bank statements from an unfamiliar bank. The latest statement showed she'd saved nearly $1 million over the past 8 years. I wondered, was this some secret plan for the kids' college fund? I gathered the statements and tax forms in my folder and headed toward the car. Just as I was about to leave, my phone buzzed with a text from Nicole. She said she'd be late because of a showing and not to wait for dinner. Yeah, right, I thought. I texted back, no problem, see you when you get home, but I couldn't help noticing I hadn't said, I love you like I usually did. I pulled up to Gina Hawkins' office building, parked, and made my way to her suite. Inside, a friendly blonde receptionist greeted me. I told her I was there for Gina Hawkins and had an appointment at 12:30. After a quick check on her computer, she smiled and led me to Gina's office. Gina stood and shook my hand warmly, saying it was good to see me. She asked if I wanted coffee, and I said that would be great. She called the receptionist back and asked for 2 cups and maybe some butter and nuts. The receptionist returned shortly with the coffee and butter portions. Gina motioned for me to sit, and I took a seat across from her. Then she said she was surprised to get a call from my father that morning. So here I was, sitting across from Gina, explaining everything. How Nicole had been unfaithful. Yeah, that's the problem I'm dealing with. I told her plainly. Gina's face softened with sympathy. I'm really sorry to hear that, she said quietly. I always thought you two had a strong marriage. Me too, I admitted. I thought we were solid, but I guess I was wrong. Then I laid out the whole story. The urgent care visit, the diagnosis, and what I'd uncovered in the bank statements earlier that day. Gina listened carefully, nodding. This is going to be tough, she said. Let me walk you through how divorce works here. It's not always about what's right or wrong. It's usually about money. In this state, we have no-fault divorce laws. But if you have solid proof of adultery, you can file on those grounds. What about the STD she gave me? I asked. Gina nodded knowingly. That's a strong angle, she said. But her lawyer could claim you contracted it elsewhere. We know that's not true, but convincing a judge can be tricky. And the money she's been squirreling away? I pressed. She sighed. She might say it's for retirement or some surprise nest egg. I wasn't buying it. Sounds like a backup plan for a clean getaway. Exactly. She's probably waiting for a good moment, maybe after the girls finish school, to walk away without drama. But proving that in court? Nearly impossible, Gina warned. So, I'm out of luck? I asked, feeling cornered. Not necessarily, she said. I can hire a private investigator. It's expensive, but it could give us the concrete evidence we need. Let's do it, I decided immediately. Gina smiled with determination. Good. I'll need everything you can give me. Car details, license plates, where she goes. I pulled out my phone. I actually installed a phone tracker app a few months back when she lost her phone. Oh, let me check if it's still working, she said, opening the app. I found her phone's location, a house on the north side of town. I showed Gina the address. Perfect, she said, jotting it down. She made the call, briefing the investigator. Hanging up, she looked me straight in the eye. We'll handle this quietly. If something's going on, we'll find out soon. All right, she said. Now, about your daughters, Karen and Heather, ages 14 and 13, right? Yes, I confirmed. They're almost old enough to choose custody themselves. I assume you want custody? Absolutely. Gina nodded thoughtfully. Courts usually favor mothers for primary custody, but given your situation, we can fight for you. Who's been the main caretaker? She asked. Mostly me. Nicole's often out at night, so I'm the one putting the girls to bed. Good to know. One thing. Are you sure the girls are biologically yours? She asked cautiously. I believe so, I said, a bit defensive. My name's on their birth certificates, and I've raised them from day one. I understand, but it might be wise to confirm. I can arrange a paternity test if you want. I'll think about that, I said. What about the house? She continued. Any mortgages or complications? No mortgage. The house belonged to my grandparents and is held in a family trust under my parents' names. They let us live there. That simplifies things a bit. We'll still need to handle personal property and other assets. I'll prepare a list of what you need to gather. Is there anything urgent I need to do right now? I asked. Not immediately. I'll draft the paperwork, but let's wait on the investigator's findings before pushing forward. Meanwhile, complete the checklist I'll give you. Should I confront Nicole about the STD? I wonder aloud. It's probably wise to at least tell her to get tested, to stop any further spread, Gina advised. Makes sense, I agreed. After she handed me a checklist and a lab contact card, I asked, anything else I should know? That's it for now. Take care of these tasks. We'll keep you updated. And Adam, yes. Don't do anything rash. We'll get through this. It won't be easy, but things will get better. I appreciated her calm. Thanks for everything, Gina. You're welcome. We'll stay in touch. I left her office, wrote a check for her services, and drove to the lab to pick up a test kit. Then I stopped by the bank to double-check some details Gina mentioned before heading home. Some might have drowned their pain in alcohol at a time like this. But not me. I never been a drinker. One of those family rules I grew up with, my parents didn't drink, and neither did I. Instead, I brewed a cup of coffee and sat down at the kitchen table. Just as I was settling in, the front door burst open. My two daughters came home, as usual, getting off the bus. Normally, I wouldn't see them until later, but today was different. Daddy, you're home, Karen exclaimed, clearly surprised. Are you okay? Heather added, her voice full of concern. I gave him a tired smile. It's been a rough day, I said quietly. Listen, I need you both to pack some things for a few days. You'll be staying with your grandparents for a while. Why, Daddy? Heather's voice wavered. Is something wrong? Did you and Mom fight? Well, yes, something's wrong, I admitted, choosing my words carefully, but no, your mom and I haven't argued. At least, not yet. That might come later. Karen cut in, her voice sharp and accusing. You caught her cheating, didn't you? Her question hit me like a punch. What makes you say that? I asked, trying to keep my composure. She looked down, embarrassed. I overheard her on the phone a few times. She was using that fake voice she does, the one that drives you crazy. I nodded, encouraging her to go on. She said things like, I can't wait to see you again, love. And then she giggled. It wasn't like her at all. It sounded really personal. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner, she added quickly. I know you hate gossip. It's okay, I told her, pulling her into a hug. Karen then said she'd noticed Mom acting really strange lately, like she didn't want to talk to us much anymore. I asked Heather if she felt the same, and she nodded. Yeah, like she doesn't want us bothering her. I hugged them both tighter. You can bother me anytime, I said with a small smile, but right now I need to swab your cheeks for a test. A cheek swab, Heather asked, eyeing the test kit suspiciously. Yes, I confirmed. My lawyer wants us to do a DNA test. Karen looked worried. You don't really think we're not your kids, do you? I shook my head. No, I know you're mine, but we have to be sure legally. Are you getting a divorce? Karen asked bluntly. It looks that way, I said. Heather's voice softened. Isn't there a way you could forgive her? I shook my head. I don't think so. What she did is serious. I had to see a doctor about it this morning. Karen gasped and almost swore. Sorry, she muttered quickly. It's okay, I said with a weak smile. I felt like swearing today too. Now let's get these done. I swabbed inside Karen's cheek, then Heather's, and finally my own. Once everything was sealed, I told the girls to pack for a couple of nights. We need to be ready to leave in 15 minutes. And don't forget your homework. As they headed upstairs, I arranged the test kit, planning to drop them off at their grandparents and then take the kit to the lab. On the drive, Karen asked quietly, Daddy, if you get divorced, can I stay with you? Me too, Heather added. I hope so, girls, I answered. I'll ask for custody, but courts usually favor the mother. Karen looked down. I don't want to stay with her. Right now, I hate her for what she did, she admitted. I want to tell her not to hate her mother, but I didn't. Those feelings were all too familiar. I understand how you feel, I said gently. But remember, no matter what, I love you both so much, and I'll always be here. I love you too, Daddy, Karen said, tears running down her cheeks. Her tears hardened my resolve. Anger swirled inside me as I thought. Vengeance is mine. I will repay. Words my father used to say to calm me. When we pulled into my parents' driveway, I hugged and kissed the girls, promising to call later. My dad greeted us on the porch, hugging the girls as they went inside with their bags. Mom came out too. I better get to the lab before it closes, I said. Are you okay? Dad asked, concern thick in his voice. As well as I can be, I replied. We'll pray for you, he said. Call us and let us know how things go with Nicole. I will. Not sure when though, I answered. It's okay, son. You can call anytime, Mom said, pulling me into a hug. Thanks, I said, then headed out, feeling the mix of support from family and the weight of what lay ahead. At the lab, I arrived with about 30 minutes to spare. I handed the test kit to the receptionist and asked, How soon can I expect results? By the end of the week, she smiled reassuringly. Great, thanks, I said and left. Driving home, I felt the need to talk to someone who might explain Nicole's strange behavior. I called her sister, Loretta, using my Bluetooth. Hey, Adam, how's my favorite brother-in-law? Loretta greeted cheerfully. Could be better, I said. Do you have a minute? Of course, she replied. What's happening? Have you talked to Nicole lately? Not since the family get-together last month at your place. I told her, actually, things aren't going well. I gave her a quick rundown, keeping it short but clear. Oh my God, Loretta gasped once I finished. Adam, I hate to say this, but it looks like she's fallen back into old habits. Old habits? I repeated, confused. Loretta paused before she spoke again. Nicole used to be quite wild when she was younger. She jumped from one relationship to another almost as fast as changing outfits. She wasn't loyal to anyone she dated in high school or college. I thought she'd changed after meeting you. She even told me she found her soulmate and left all that behind. I didn't think it was necessary to mention it before. I appreciate you telling me, but I wish I had known sooner, I admitted. I'm sorry, Adam. I should have told you, she said quietly. It's okay, Loretta. This isn't your fault, I assured her, trying to keep my emotions steady. Listen, I know you're planning to have her move out. I'm calling to ask if she could stay with you for a while, I said, getting straight to the point. Actually, yes, I added, if that's all right with you. I heard Loretta sigh on the other end. She might stay here a bit until she gets herself together, she said. Frank won't be happy, though. I don't want to cause you guys any trouble, I said, worried. It's fine, he'll manage. Just don't let it drag on too long, she reassured me. Thanks, I really appreciate it. I'm not sure when she'll be home tonight, but I'll call you when she's on her way to you, I promised. Thank you, Loretta replied. How are the girls handling everything? They're upset, but coping better than I thought they would, I answered. You've raised strong young women. Adam, stay strong for them, she encouraged. I'm trying, I said. I have to go make dinner now. We'll talk later, okay? I will, I said, and then we ended the call. Back home, I heated up some leftover meatloaf for dinner. Right after I finished eating, the phone rang again. It was Gina, my lawyer. I glanced at the clock. It was just past 6:30 p.m. Hey, I greeted her. Working late tonight? I asked. For you, yes, Gina answered. I've got some preliminary results from the private investigator. Looks like Nicole's been very busy. She's met with 3 men since this afternoon. I was shocked. 3 men in one day. How does she even find the time? Yes, Gina confirmed. I'm sending you the details now. Photos, videos, and a summary. I'd suggest not watching the video, but definitely listen to the last few minutes of the audio. It's pretty revealing. So, do you think there's enough to go ahead with the divorce? Absolutely, I said firmly. Good, listen to that audio and then call me, she instructed. Will do, thanks, Gina. I hung up, feeling a strange mix of anger and relief that finally I was moving forward. I opened my laptop and checked my email. There was the video Gina mentioned. I fast-forwarded to the part she'd highlighted. Even though I didn't want to watch Nicole in such a compromising situation, I had to know what was being said. I see you're married, the man said, noticing her rings. For now, Nicole answered casually. I noticed you're married too, she said, looking at his ring. Yes, my wife and I have an open relationship, he explained. And you? He asked. It's not open like that, but I take my freedoms when I can, she said. So your husband doesn't know? No, he doesn't, she admitted. He has no clue what kind of woman he married. I thought bitterly, the truth finally clear. What's wrong? Isn't he good to you at home? The man asked, probing further. He better be. I taught him everything he knows, she bragged. You taught him? The man seemed surprised. Was he inexperienced when you married? Believe it or not, he was a 23-year-old virgin, she revealed. He's very religious, doesn't smoke, drink, or even curse. He'd probably freak out if I swore around him. He didn't even know how to make love until after we were married. Damn, the man said. Sounds like you think he's a loser. Then why stay with him? Is there love? Somewhere in there, I suppose. He's a good father, takes care of the girls, and doesn't complain when I come home late. But other than that, he's dull, she admitted. Are the girls even his? The man asked with a curious edge. I just shrugged like it didn't matter much. Honestly, I don't know for sure. Maybe it doesn't really bother me either way. He believes they're his, and that's all that counts, I said casually. How long have you been fooling around? He pressed. I don't mind admitting it. I've been having my fun throughout our marriage, and he's still clueless. I answered, sounding breezy. He has no idea. Hasn't been with anyone else. So how would he know any different? Is that it? He asked again. That's exactly it, I confirmed. Hearing her toss aside our whole life and family so easily crushed me inside. The betrayal ran deeper than I ever imagined. I had to fight back the urge to throw up right then. Just thinking about how she'd been playing me all these years made me feel sick. Do you plan on sticking with him? Yeah, for now. At least until the girls finish high school and move on to college. She said, that's 4 or 5 years away. I'll have everything ready by then to leave. Why wait so long? Because usually the courts favor the mom in custody battles, and the last thing I want is 2 teenage girls under my care alone, she said. So what's the plan after that? I want to party, maybe see a few people at once, go on a cruise, or retire somewhere like Costa Rica. Who knows? She laughed. I got a couple of guys lined up already. Can you sneak away for a weekend? He asked. Sure. I could tell Adam I have a mandatory seminar or something, she said with a grin. You'll believe anything I say. Let me know when you can go and we'll arrange it. You have my number, right? I will, she promised, smiling. He glanced at his watch. It's late, and I've got to go. Can't wait to see you again. Honey, I'm excited too, she said when he left. Nicole sat back on the bed grinning wide. Oh, Adam, she whispered to the empty room. You have no idea what's coming. Watching that video left me frozen, tears blurring my vision. The weight of her betrayal hit me harder than I'd expected. With a heavy breath, I called Gina. I just finished a video. I told her, you were right. Open my eyes. What's next? She asked. Bird all down. I said firmly, consider it done. She replied, what about the men she was with? Can we do anything? I asked, though part of me dreaded her answer. No. She said, alienation of affection suits aren't a thing here anymore. I let out a bitter chuckle. Don't worry. Their own lives will catch up with them soon enough. My dad's words echoed in my mind. Vengeance is mine. I will repay. Gina laughed softly. I got to get started on the divorce papers. If Nicole tries to run, we'll make sure it's not on her terms. Thanks, Gina. I said gratefully. Just take care of your girls, she said, after we hung up. I leaned back on the couch, letting tears fall. 15 years of my life wasted on someone who never cared about our family. It hurt too much. Minutes later, my phone buzzed. It was Nicole calling. Hey, I answered. Hi, Adam, she said. You okay? It's been a rough day. I admitted. How about you? Just finishing up work. I think I closed another sale. She sounded upbeat. Good. I said carefully. I'll be home in about half an hour. See you then? Sure. She agreed. Okay, love you. She said, her voice oddly cold. Me too, I said. Then hung up. I wondered if she noticed I didn't say it back, but it didn't matter anymore. I gathered the evidence for photos of Nicole with other men printed on a single sheet and placed them in a folder on the kitchen table. Ready to confront her when she walked in, I brewed coffee and sat down to wait. An hour passed, then 2, still no sign of her. Concern mixed with frustration. Maybe she was delaying on purpose, but as time stretched on, with no calls, worry crept in. I tried calling her cell, straight to voicemail, left a message and a text, no reply. 3 hours after she was supposed to be home, my phone rang. I rushed to answer, hoping it was her. It wasn't Adam Watson. I heard a woman say, "This is Angela Barnes from Mercy Hospital. Are you related to Nicole Watson?" "She's my wife." I said, my heart dropping. "Mr. Watson, your wife was in an accident and has been brought here for treatment. Can you come quickly?" "Yes, absolutely," I said, swallowing hard. "Is she okay?" "What happened?" I asked, panic rising. "I'm sorry, sir. I can't give details. The doctor will talk to you when you arrive. Please come to the courtesy desk. They'll guide you." "Thanks," I said, trying to steady myself. I shoved the envelope with the photos into my jacket pocket, thought about calling Dad or Loretta, but decided to wait until I knew more. I drove to the hospital fast, parked, and hurried inside. At the desk, I told the woman, "I'm Adam Watson, here to see Nicole Watson." She looked up Nicole's info, then nodded to a nurse. "Please take Mr. Watson to the ICU," she said. The nurse motioned for me to follow. We walked quietly toward the ICU, and when we arrived, a police officer was waiting. "Mr. Watson?" he asked as we got closer. "That's me," I said. "I'm Officer Simpson. I responded to your wife's accident," he explained. "She was driving through the intersection at 3rd and Main when a drunk driver ran a red light and hit her car on the driver's side." Hearing that made my chest tighten. "I'm very sorry," he added, his voice genuine. I forced out, "It's okay," even though nothing about this felt okay at all. He went on, "Her car was towed to the junkyard. There's not much left of it." He handed me a business card from the towing company. "If you need anything, please call." "Thank you, officer," I said, clutching the card as my mind raced, anxious about what I was about to see. After he left, a man in a white coat approached me. "Adam Watson?" he asked. "Yes. I'm Dr. Blake, overseeing your wife's treatment. Can we talk for a minute?" Of course. He led me to a small room, shut the door, and sat across from me. How is she? I asked immediately. She has multiple broken bones and several internal injuries. Plus, she suffered a severe blow to the head. He said, "We've placed her in a medically induced coma to help her recover." I nodded, bracing myself. Anything else? He continued. Preliminary tests suggest she may be HIV positive. We've sent samples for more detailed blood work, but confirmation will take some time. A cold shock washed over me. I found out this morning she has gonorrhea. I told him, still trying to absorb it all. Are you being treated for that? He asked. Yes, I replied. That's good, but I recommend you get tested for HIV as soon as possible. Ideally, see your primary care doctor tomorrow. It's important to know your status. I swallowed hard, taking in his advice. How long will she be in the coma? That depends on her progress. Could be 10 days to 2 weeks, possibly longer depending on her recovery, he said. Can I see her now? Absolutely. She needs your support more than ever. He stood and led me down the hall. Room 5, just down here. Thank you, I said, shaking his hand, my mind spinning. When I entered Nicole's room, the sight hit me hard. She was wrapped in bandages, one leg in a cast that went up to her hip. Her face was swollen and bruised, stitched cuts marking her skin. She looked like she'd barely survived a brutal fight. I silently prayed for her, then slipped off my wedding ring, pulling out the envelope with the photos. I wrote her name on it, tucked the ring inside, and sealed it. Turning to the nurse watching over Nicole, I held out the envelope. Could you make sure she gets this when she wakes up? Of course, the nurse said warmly. You can put it on that tray over there. She pointed to a nearby wheeled tray. Thank you. I placed the envelope carefully, wanting her to see it as soon as she opened her eyes. I stayed a moment longer, looking down at her. Despite everything, it hurt to see her like this. Noticing her wedding rings still on her fingers, I gently removed them and slipped them into my pocket. Goodbye, Nicole. I whispered, I'll see you later. The nurse gave me a sympathetic smile as I left. On the drive home, I called Loretta to update her. She was shocked, especially about the HIV possibility. Adam, Frank won't be comfortable with her here if that's true, she said, worried about the kids. I can't argue with him. Her parents had retired to Florida, so they weren't an option either. Looks like I'll have to find her an apartment, I said. I think that's best, Loretta agreed. I'm sorry, Adam, but I have to look out for my family. She made her choices. I can help move her stuff, but after that, I have to step back. I understand, I said. You're doing what you need to do. It's late. I should get some sleep, but keep me posted, please. I will. Thanks for everything. The weight of the day settled on me as I drove the rest of the way home in silence. By the time I got there, it was almost midnight. I was exhausted and fell asleep almost immediately. The next morning, still feeling the heaviness of it all, I called my doctor's office. They surprisingly fit me in for an appointment later that day. After booking it, I phoned my parents to fill them in. They were just as shocked, especially about the HIV news. They offered to bring the girls to visit Nicole at the hospital. I also told them about the photos I collected. Dad asked me to email him the details, which I did right away. It's really bad. I admitted over the phone. It's all right, son. Dad reassured me. We'll get through this together. After sending the email, I called Gina to update her on everything. She was just as shocked, but said this might actually speed up the divorce paperwork. Next, I reached out to Nicole's workplace to let her colleagues know about the accident. They were sympathetic and promised to visit. The next 2 weeks felt like a whirlwind. I found a 2-bedroom apartment on the ground floor with a garage, paid the deposit plus 2 months rent up front using Nicole's share from our joint account. When Loretta and the girls arrived, we packed up Nicole's things, including our wedding album, and moved them to the new place. In the middle of all that chaos, the DNA test results came back, confirming the girls were definitely mine. It was a small relief amidst the turmoil. I also met with the insurance adjuster to check out the wreckage of Nicole's car. We both stood in disbelief at how she could have survived the crash, considering the car's condition. Since the insurance and car were in her name, the company would send the payout directly to her. I gathered the last of her belongings from the vehicle and brought them to her apartment, trying to close this painful chapter and focus on rebuilding what was left. About a week after the accident, my mom called and asked, "Did you visit Nicole again?" I told her no, meaning since that first hospital visit. Why? She pressed, her voice laced with concern. I explained, she's made it clear she doesn't want anything to do with us and just wants to disappear. I'm giving her what she wants, just not how she imagined it. 2 weeks later, I went to see my doctor. Thankfully, I tested negative for the gonorrhea Nicole had passed on, but we were still waiting on results for anything more serious. Physically, I was healing, but emotionally, I was far from whole. Later that day, I called my boss, Alan, to let him know I'd be back at work, which made him very happy. Then the hospital called to say Nicole had finally come out of the coma. The nurse suggested I visit that evening, which worked for me. I updated Gina, who had already filed the divorce papers and was just waiting for Nicole to wake up so the papers could be served. She arranged for a bailiff to meet me at the hospital. I called Loretta to see if she wanted to come along, then spoke to the girls. "Your mom's awake," I told them. Their reaction was distant. "No thanks, Dad," Karen said firmly. "I'm too mad at her right now." Heather added, "Me too, and I've got a ton of homework." "All right," I said. "I'll drop you off at your grandparents' first." By 4:30, I was driving them to my parents' house, letting them know I'd be meeting Loretta and the bailiff there. "Keep us posted, son," Dad said as I left. "I will," I promised. "I'll come back for the girls afterward." "Good. Then you can have some of Mom's lasagna when you get back." He smiled warmly. Mom's lasagna always made everything a little better. "Sounds perfect," I said, feeling a flicker of hope as I headed to the hospital. When we arrived, the process server handed Nicole the divorce papers. "You're being served," he said plainly. Nicole's hands trembled as she took the documents. She stared at the first page for what felt like forever before whispering, "I see." She set the papers down beside her on the hospital bed. I glanced at Loretta, who stayed quiet, her face serious. "Thanks for being here," I said. "Of course," she replied softly, eyes still on Nicole. Turning back to Nicole, I felt a mix of relief and sadness. "We need to get this sorted," I told her, "for everyone's sake." She nodded, eyes fixed on the floor. "I understand," she whispered. "I never wanted it to come to this." "I know," I said, though I wasn't sure if that was true, but here we are. The room was heavy with unspoken feelings. I decided it was time to leave. "I'll let you rest." Nicole didn't look up. "Thank you, Adam." "I'm sorry," she said, her voice breaking. I nodded, too choked up to say more. Loretta and I stepped out together. She squeezed my arm and asked quietly, "Are you okay?" "I will be," I answered, forcing a small smile. "Thanks for coming, it meant a lot." She hugged me briefly. "Call if you need anything." "I will." As I drove away, the burden of the past week seemed to ease a little. The future was unclear, but at least now there was a way forward. Nicole's voice called after me. "You couldn't even wait until I was out of the hospital?" "No," I replied firmly. "You were the one who wanted to run away. I'm just speeding things up a bit." Her eyes searched mine, looking for the man she once knew. "Do the girls know?" she asked, shifting. "Yes, and they're not exactly thrilled with you, which is why they're not here. You don't need to worry about being stuck with them. I'm seeking full custody, but I'm open to giving you liberal visitation rights if the girls decide they want to see you. Right now, though, they don't." Her face faltered. She clearly hadn't expected me to be this firm. Then she asked quietly, "And I suppose you hate me too?" "Hate's a strong word," I said calmly. "Let's just say my opinion of you has taken a serious hit." She nodded slowly, taking it in. "Do you think you could ever forgive me?" she asked, desperation creeping into her voice. "Maybe someday," I said, "when I can look at our girls without feeling the pain you caused. And just so, I had their DNA tested, they're definitely mine." Her eyes widened a bit, surprised I'd gone that far. "That won't change anything, Adam," she whispered to herself. I shifted gears. "When you get discharged, you won't be coming home. I've already rented you an apartment. Loretta will help you move in." Nicole glanced at her sister, who had stayed quiet until now. "All your stuff is already there, and the utilities are set up in your name," I added, pulling out another envelope. "Here's your half of our joint savings, minus the deposit and 2 months' rent for the apartment. Since your car was totaled, you'll also be getting an insurance payout." Her hand trembled slightly as she took the envelope. The silence between us thickened, heavy with the finality of what this all meant. She nodded slowly. "By the way, I know about the escape fund you set up. My lawyer froze that account. If you sign the divorce papers, she'll release the funds, minus my half, of course." Nicole looked shocked, then defiant. "I'll fight you for it." I didn't flinch. "That wouldn't be very smart unless you want everything I've found out to go public. It's pretty damning." Her fire seemed to flicker out at that. "Have your lawyer look over the papers. You'll see the terms are as fair as they can be." Nicole turned to Loretta, searching for backup, but finding none. "You should have listened," Loretta said coldly. You lied to everyone. Adam, the girls, me. I agreed to help you move into your apartment, but after that, I'm done. You need to get your life together." Nicole broke down crying. "I'm so sorry," she sobbed, desperately hoping for some sympathy from her sister. Loretta's voice was ice. "Sorry, and a few bucks will get you a coffee. You're not welcome near my family until you make things right," starting with a real apology to Adam and the girls. Through her tears, Nicole looked at me. "Adam, I'm so sorry. I know it doesn't mean much now, but I do love you." I cut her off coldly, right? Doesn't mean much. "Sign the papers, Nicole." She nodded, overwhelmed and silent. "Goodbye, Nicole." As I turned to leave, she called after me. "Adam, can I call the girls?" "Please." "You can call them," I said, pausing at the door, "but it's up to them if they want to talk." "I understand. Thank you for that, at least." "You're welcome." I left without looking back, feeling the disapproving eyes of the nursing staff on me. Maybe they thought I was cold, but this wasn't their place to judge. Driving away from the hospital, I headed to my parents' house, surrounded by family. I found some comfort in a big plate of Mom's lasagna, letting the familiar warmth ease the sting of a hard day. The divorce process went smoothly. 3 months later, not only was I legally free from Nicole, but I also got the good news that I was HIV negative. Nicole was too. Then, Gina surprised me with a check for over $450,000, the other half of Nicole's secret savings. I didn't need that kind of money right now, so I put it straight into college fund for Karen and Heather. Life slowly settled into a new rhythm for me and my daughters. They became my anchor, the steady force that kept me grounded through the ups and downs of single fatherhood. Sure, managing teenage girls alone wasn't always easy. Sometimes it felt downright exhausting. But my mom's advice and support helped me navigate those tough moments. Nicole, meanwhile, seemed to have adjusted to her new life as a single, divorced woman. After about a year of cautious back and forth, the girls started reconnecting with her, spending an occasional afternoon together. She had gone back to work in real estate, this time with a new company after a messy exit from her last job, because of some indiscretions that had come to light. From what the girls said, she was doing well and seemed to have left her old ways behind. Meanwhile, at church, I began noticing a growing interest from some of the single women there. They would often send me home with homemade meals, pies, lasagna, casseroles, a kindness that didn't escape my daughter's notice. One evening, Karen nudged me, saying, "Dad, you need to start dating again. It's not good for you to be alone." I chuckled nervously. Honestly, I wouldn't even know where to start. And you're not alone," I added with a smile. "You two keep me busy enough." Heather grinned. "We won't be around forever, you know." Karen gave me a serious look. "It's simple, Dad. Just ask someone out for dinner. You can do that, right?" Her words stuck with me. Maybe she was right. Maybe it was time for me to look beyond just being a dad and start exploring what else life could offer. That very Wednesday, I ran into Vanessa Morgan at the church coffee shop. Vanessa was a widow raising her teenage daughter alone after losing her husband in a tragic accident. She'd recently dropped off a casserole I'd especially enjoyed. "Hi, Vanessa, how are you?" I started, hoping to keep the conversation going. She smiled tiredly. "Hanging in there, Adam. How about you?" "Doing okay. Really appreciated that casserole last week." "Thank you," I said, hoping to break the ice further. She nodded, her tone understanding. "It can be tough managing on your own, can it?" "Yeah, it's definitely a challenge sometimes, but we manage," I agreed, feeling a connection through our shared struggles. We talked over coffee about the joys and frustrations of raising teenagers solo. The conversation flowed easily, and encouraged I took a leap. "Vanessa, I'm pretty new at this, but would you like to have dinner with me sometime? Maybe this Friday." Her smile lit up the room. "Yes, Adam, I'd like that." "Great," I said, feeling a spark of excitement. "How about that new Texas Roadhouse place?" "Sounds perfect. It's a date." Walking away from the coffee shop, I felt lighter than I had in a long time. Maybe this really was the right moment. Not just for me, but for all of us. The girls were thrilled when I told them about the date, and they liked the idea of spending the evening with Diane, so everything was set. That Friday, I invited the girls over before we went out. Vanessa looked really cute in her denim skirt, and we had a wonderful time together. We didn't get too close that night, but as I dropped her off, she gave me a heartfelt kiss. From her window, I caught a glimpse of 3 faces watching us, and it seemed like they were cheering us on. She hugged me tightly and said, "That was the best night I've had in months." "Me too," I replied honestly. "What if we do this again soon?" she asked with a smile. Maybe next time, we can have a quiet evening in, she teased, gently brushing her hand against my leg. I felt a little thrill. That sounds like a plan. The girls were over the moon about how well the date went. And honestly, so was I. Spending time with Vanessa felt easy and refreshing. I'm not sure exactly where this will lead, but I'm open to seeing where the next steps take us.